Speaking of the Chinese, DCEP, there's sort of the two-tier model that people talk about, right? Where you have, there's some component that's centrally administered, and then there's another tier, whether it's large fintech bank-like firms or actual commercial banks that can operate this technology, and there's sort of a two-tier model. And I guess the way I've thought about it, at least, is could private sector arrangements for standards for things like digital dollars, like USDC, could those eventually just become standards that were supervised by, the Fed or other central banks, but the underlying money becomes, central bank M1 or an equivalent, but the sort of technology is in some ways more like how Visa grew, right? Which is, the central bank doesn't run the card networks, but it's it became a private sector consortium of firms that said, we're going to build standards for interoperability for electronic money settlement. And it's going to sit a layer above, Fedwire, or a layer above, other networks. And it seems inevitable that, like, at least in the West, like a two-tier model is what's going to happen. And it's sort of a question of, is it something created from scratch by you guys, or is it something that happens organically through public-private kind of collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, I can say the two-tier models, it's what we do now, right? The Federal Reserve does not handle individuals. That would be a major mission change for us to start managing individuals' accounts or individuals' wallets. And the private sector does a good job of that. So there is a neat fit there. And America has a long tradition of, the public sector with its mission-driven approach, working with the private sector to innovate well. I mean, putting a man on the moon, the internet, right? The whole growth of the internet, that was a public and private sector partnership that continues to this day. So there's a really nice fit there, Jeremy. I think you're exactly right. Because opening accounts, that's something we don't do for individuals right now. And that would be a big change. And the private sector does it pretty well. And firms like Circle, when we were at Circle and learning about how to really reduce that friction to get more people in the financial system, I think that's something the private sector has done really well. And we certainly need to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
really quick, Jeremy. Yeah, someone said this to me before. I'm just going to totally steal it from them. But a nice way of looking at these big projects like the internet and the moon landing, things like that. You've got .gov, .edu, and .com, right? You've got like all these three different pieces that have been really critical in bringing these things to bear, right? And it's not one side on its own. Yeah. You need obviously the innovation of the private sector. You need the regulation, the representation of the people from the public sector, and you need neutral research, fundamental research and design that often comes from academia and that can't really be provided by the public or private sector necessarily. So, it's really interesting to think about. Yeah, there are .orgs, but it's really interesting to think about these pieces of the triangle.
I like that concept a lot. It resonates well here.